Welcome back. We're taking a look at San Diego State. This is a team that's off to a 4-1 start, and we kind of talked about this coming into the year. We talked about Sean Lewis and what his team was capable of. We talked about the potential of this team taking a step, and in the Mountain West, which appears to be as crowded as it's ever been, San Diego State is putting their name into that conversation. They are putting their name into the hat and saying, hey, we want to be a part of that. And it's been a variety of different ways that they've won football games. They're averaging only 28 yard or points per game. They're giving up 12.6. So in a way, they are actually closer to like the Rocky Long days. But they've also shown that they can potentially win some of those games with putting up points. And the loss to Washington State is going to be a tough one, especially because you lose 36-13. But that was also a game that I think was closer until Washington State really pulled away late. The Cal game was super surprising. And we talked about Washington State and Cal, how those were two opportunities for the Aztecs to show us something and show that they are capable of potentially pulling off an upset. And the Cal game, I think, put a big surprise on this schedule. I don't think a lot of people anticipated San Diego State being able to beat Cal, especially just because 2 weeks earlier they lose to Washington State. But turnovers are going to do that, and they're not going to apologize for that. They took care of business, and they took advantage and they capitalized on a poor performance by Cal. But posting a shutout, especially against that team, especially a Cal team that's playing a lot better than people realize, is very impressive. And that's where you think this is a team that can handle life in the Mountain West. Then you go to Northern Illinois. A week later, you clearly have a hangover game. You have that letdown game where you're struggling on all fronts. You're not putting up any points. And really, I guess the defense is what you have to feel good about. The defense said, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of business here. And they win 6-3. It was ugly. It was terrible, but they found a way to win. Then you go to Colorado State, and the offense says, all right, we're going to do our part this time. And the defense takes a little bit of a step back, and you win 45-24. So this is a team that clearly has figured out we can win any way possible. We don't need to win a traditional way. We don't need to be consistent as much right now. We can just figure out who we're going to be and what moments we're going to need certain guys to step up. And this has been a really fun team to watch so far. Now, the remaining schedule does provide some challenges, specifically the next two games. You go to Nevada, that's just a tough place to play. And right now, with how the Wolfpack are struggling, it's probably not going to be a loud environment. You're going to have to get up for that game and make sure that you are ready and energized for it. Then you get 2 weeks before you go to Fresno State. And Fresno State, to me, is the biggest challenger to Boise State. I think a lot of people would consider Boise State still the top of the conference, but Fresno State is right up there. Matt Entz has this team playing with a lot of confidence, and it has been looking really good. That is a team that you are going to have to get past. Then you get Wyoming at home, at Hawaii. You do get that Boise State team. The last 3 games are tough. Boise State and San Jose State at home, and then at New Mexico. Those are going to be tough teams because, again, this is a conference that is relatively wide open, and it's got plenty of challenges and obstacles for any team that has to go through it. And San Diego State is no exception to that, but we've seen this team is clearly ready for that challenge. Now, the big question is, how did we get here, right? Sean Lewis, we knew that when he came to San Diego State that this offense was going to improve. And I would make an argument that even though the numbers aren't elite by any means, this is still a much better offense than we've seen in years past. It's just that he's also kept up the defensive dominance. The offense, though, Jayden Denegal is a guy that we talked about coming into the year. If he was going to be able to develop in Sean Lewis's system, then you felt that this offense had a chance. And the former Michigan transfer has delivered and also struggled. It's been kind of a roller coaster, but you kind of expected that. 63.3 completion percentage, 892 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, the one thing that you've also seen is that this is a rushing attack that has made some explosive plays. Lucky Sutton, 88 carries for 450 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. Byron Cardwell, 23 carries for 161 yards, averaging 7 yards per carry. And then Christian Washington, 40 carries for 150 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. So it's a 3-headed attack, and that has helped, I think, Jayden Denegal at times when he needs a little bit of a breather. You have a rushing attack that you can rely on. Now, he's had kind of, like I said, a roller coaster. When you look at his 5 games so far, the Stony Brook game, it's his first game, 207 yards passing. Then you look at Washington State, 133. He really struggled in that one. The next 2 games, though, doesn't do much better. 186, 110, and then Colorado State, 256 yards. So it's clear that he has the ability to distribute the football, to make explosive plays happen, and to move the ball down the field. Now, a big part of that has been Jordan Napier, another guy we talked about coming into the year as a potential big-time threat, and he has been a reliable player. 32 catches for 443 yards, 13.8 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns. This has been an offense that I think has done some good things, but the nice thing, and maybe the scary part about this team, is that they have not played their best football. They have not played at their peak, and that's very promising for a group that is still looking to improve and has plenty of challenges ahead. And some of the teams they're going to face, you need them to hit that level. So if they're capable of doing that, that's going to be fun. That's going to give you a lot of confidence in your team. Sean Lewis, who is already going to be discussed in a lot of head coaching opportunities, is only going to be discussed more. And the offense is going to play a role in that. Now, the defense has been a nice development. I think that there were some concerns about this group in terms of, could they continue being a group that is disruptive, and can they help a team that needs them to play at a certain level? And coming into the year, everybody kind of knew who Trey White was. Everybody knew what he was capable of doing. The fact that he came back to San Diego State was extremely surprising. And so far this year, he has delivered as well. He has been a consistent force, and even with people knowing who he is, teams have still had trouble keeping him out of their backfield. So far this year, 23 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Now, 2 of those sacks and tackles for loss came against Colorado State, but again, he's still done a good job of being disruptive and forcing teams to send help his way. The problem for other teams is that it's not just him you have to worry about. Owen Chambliss has developed into a nice player. Chris Johnson in the secondary has been a solid disruptive player and has the ability to create turnovers as well. Other guys that have produced so far, you have Niles King, 11 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Ryan Henderson, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. August Salvati, 5 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. So clearly it's not just one guy getting the job done, and that's kind of putting teams in a bind. You can't just send help to Trey White's side anymore. You can't just say, oh, we'll take one guy away and that'll help us the rest of the year. And those are just the guys that are being disruptive. Those are the guys that are creating tackles for loss and creating sacks. There are plenty of other players that have stepped up that we discussed in the offseason. And it's another reason why this team is having the success it's having. And when you look at the games they've played, for the most part, besides Washington State, they have done a good job against opposing offenses. And that's a piece that we didn't really know what we were going to get. If you're San Diego State, you were probably wondering, what is this defense going to be able to do to help us? The offense clearly needs some time to gel, and that's still very much the case, but the defense has stepped up in a way that makes you feel confident. And again, when you look at the schedule they have remaining, that should build confidence in this team. And Sean Lewis deserves a lot of credit. It's clear that when we talked about if he can win at Kent State, he can win anywhere. And that's clearly showing up here. This is a team that is in a very good position to win football games, and I think that their best football has yet to come.